They gave him the galaxy's most beautiful alien women, but he wanted only the alien queen. The emissary's arrival. The crystalline spires of Nidra's capital city gleamed like frozen flames against the amber sky as Commander Taris Valen's shuttle broke through the cloud layer. After 3 months traversing the void between star systems, the sight of any civilization would have been welcome, but Nidra's renowned beauty exceeded even the most elaborate descriptions in the diplomatic briefings. "Prepare for atmospheric adjustment," announced the ship's AI. "Nidrian composition includes trace elements of luminous gases. Breathing will be comfortable but may cause mild euphoria for the first 48 hours. Taris nodded, straightening his formal diplomatic uniform. Earth's interstellar coalition had selected him for this mission after decades of failed attempts to establish relations with the notoriously selective Nidrians. Their world contained rare minerals essential for faster-than-light travel, but they shared them with only those they deemed worthy. The shuttle glided to a stop at the royal landing platform where a small welcoming party awaited. At their center stood a figure whose presence commanded attention without effort, Queen Lyria, ruler of the Nidrian Confederation. Her skin shimmered with delicate patterns in various shades of purple, from palest lavender at her face to deep violet at her graceful hands. The subtle bioluminescence that was characteristic of her species outlined her form in a gentle glow. "Commander Valen," she spoke, her voice carrying musical undertones that human vocal cords could never replicate. "You journey far to stand before us. What does Earth offer that we should consider its proposal?" Taris bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I bring not demands but possibilities. Earth seeks understanding before alliance." A subtle smile crossed her features. "Interesting. Most envoys arrive with lists of what they wish to take from Nidra. Then they fundamentally misunderstand diplomacy," Taris replied. "One does not begin a dance by stepping on their partner's toes." An appreciative murmur rippled through the royal entourage. Queen Lyria's chief advisor, a stern-faced male Nidrian named Kelvin, leaned close to whisper something in her ear. She nodded once. "You will rest tonight," she announced. "Tomorrow we shall test your sincerity with the traditional hospitalities of Nidra. Many find our customs distracting." As Taris was led to his chambers by silent attendants, he noticed the elaborate murals depicting Nidrian history, particularly the recurring theme of visitors being presented with spectacular offerings. Only a few paintings showed these guests proceeding beyond the initial chambers of the palace. His quarters were luxurious beyond reason, with views spanning the capital's luminous landscape. As night fell, a soft chime announced a message. "Prepare yourself, emissary of Earth. Tomorrow you face the pleasures of Nidra. Few maintain their purpose when confronted with their deepest desires." Taris gazed at the distant royal tower where Queen Lyria resided. Something about her measured words and penetrating gaze suggested she sought something beyond typical diplomatic posturing. Perhaps, he thought, this mission might require more than mere political skill to succeed. Temptations of the court. The grand hall of Queen Lyria's palace shimmered with bioluminescent crystals that cast an ethereal glow across the gathered assembly. Taris entered wearing the formal attire provided by his Nidrian hosts, a flowing garment that adapted to his body temperature and moved like liquid silver. Advisor Kelvin approached with a tight smile that never reached his eyes. "Commander Valen, we have prepared the traditional hospitality sequence. Her Majesty believes in understanding visitors through their choices." He gestured toward an archway where several figures waited. "These are the eminent companions of the 7 systems, each selected for their unique talents." Taris maintained a diplomatic smile while studying the individuals before him. They were breathtaking, representing diverse species across the galaxy. One had skin that shifted colors like flowing water. Another possessed features so mathematically perfect they seemed almost unreal. A third emanated a subtle pheromone blend that triggered immediate comfort and attraction. "I'm honored by such consideration," Taris replied carefully, "though my focus remains our negotiations." Kelvin's expression soured slightly. "These are the negotiations, Commander. Through pleasure we discern truth. Those who cannot be tempted cannot be bought." Throughout the evening the companions approached Taris one by one. Mira, a telepathic dancer from the Pleiades cluster, offered to share her mind-melding dance, an experience said to be more intimate than any physical connection. Jen, a master of sonic vibrations, promised sensations beyond human comprehension. Each time Taris engaged in respectful conversation, but politely declined their more intimate offers. His attention repeatedly drifted to the royal dais where Queen Lyria observed the proceedings. When their eyes met briefly, he detected something beyond royal assessment, perhaps curiosity. "You resist our finest pleasures," noted a melodic voice beside him. A striking female with iridescent markings introduced herself as Vela, the queen's closest confidant. Most envoys falter by now. "Perhaps because they confuse pleasure with purpose," Taris replied. "I find greater satisfaction in meaningful exchange than momentary diversion." Vela studied him with newfound interest. "The queen will want to hear your perspective directly. Few see beyond our surface offerings." Later, as the gathering thinned, Queen Lyria descended from her observation point. The purple hues of her skin seemed to intensify in the dim light, creating mesmerizing patterns that drew the eye. "Commander Valen," she addressed him, "you've bewildered my advisors. Kelvin insists you must have some hidden agenda to resist such calibrated temptations. Or perhaps a simpler explanation. I value clarity of mind when building bridges between worlds." A smile played at her lips. "And what of bridges between individuals? Do you find no value there?" "On the contrary," Taris replied, his voice lowering slightly. "Those are the foundations upon which all meaningful alliances are built. But they require genuine connection, not choreographed encounters." "Interesting," she murmured. "Perhaps tomorrow you would join me for the twilight ceremony at the Azure Gardens. It's a more authentic setting for conversation." As she departed, Advisor Kelvin approached with a scowl. "Be warned, Earthling. Many before you have mistaken the Queen's diplomatic curiosity for personal interest. Such presumptions end poorly." Taris nodded respectfully but couldn't dismiss the subtle communication that had passed between himself and Lyria, something that transcended the calculated pageantry of the court and hinted at a mutual desire for authenticity in a realm built on spectacle. Moonlit Confession. The Azure Gardens floated on massive anti-gravity platforms above Nidra's capital, capturing the perfect balance of light from the planet's twin moons. Bioluminescent flora pulsed in patterns that seemed almost conversational, as if the plants themselves were exchanging secrets in a language of light. Taris arrived to find the Queen alone, save for 2 distant guards, far fewer attendants than protocol typically demanded. Lyria wore simpler attire than her formal court garments, though the fabric still shimmered with subtle complexity. Her purple skin caught the moonlight in a way that emphasized the delicate patterns swirling across her features. "Your guards look concerned about this arrangement," Taris observed as he approached. "They worry I forget my station," she replied with unexpected candor. But one cannot rule effectively from behind layers of ceremony. They walked together through winding paths bordered by flowers that turned to follow their movement. The air carried a sweet, almost intoxicating scent. "The twilight ceremony typically includes hundreds of participants," Taris noted. "I studied Nydrian customs extensively before my arrival." Lyria smiled. "And that preparation reveals your genuine interest. Yes, this should be a public ritual, but I've grown weary of performances." She paused beside a reflecting pool. "Tell me something true, Commander, not diplomatic, just true." The request caught him off guard. After a moment's consideration, he answered, "I find myself thinking about you when strategy dictates I should be focusing on mineral treaties." Her eyes widened slightly, purple irises catching the moonlight. Bold words that could be calculated to appeal to vanity. "You asked for truth, not strategy," he countered. "Your turn, Your Majesty." She studied him thoughtfully. "I've rejected 17 alliance proposals from Earth before you, but none of the previous envoys looked at me, truly at me, instead of at my crown or my species' resources." They continued walking, conversation flowing more naturally than any diplomatic exchange. Lyria spoke of the isolation of leadership. Taris described the loneliness of space travel. They discovered shared perspectives despite their different worlds. When their hands brushed accidentally, neither immediately pulled away. The contact sent a warm current between them that had nothing to do with Nydrian biology and everything to do with unexpected connection. "We should discuss the treaty," Taris said finally, though his tone suggested reluctance. "We are building its foundation right now," Lyria replied softly. "Understanding before demands, as you wisely noted." From the shadows, Advisor Kelvin watched with narrowed eyes, his communication device quietly transmitting the scene to others within the court. Beside him, Vela observed with more complex emotions. "This grows dangerous," Kelvin whispered. "The Earthling shows too much ambition." "Or perhaps genuine regard," Vela countered. "Not everything is political calculation." As the twin moons aligned overhead, casting doubled shadows across the gardens, Terrace and Lyria found themselves standing closer than diplomatic protocol would permit. The air between them seemed charged with unspoken possibility. "There will be consequences," Lyria warned, though she made no move to increase the distance between them. "My counsel already whispers of impropriety." "There are always consequences for anything worthwhile," Terrace replied, his voice low. "The question is whether they're worth facing." As their eyes met in silent communication, the garden's luminescent plants pulsed in synchronized patterns around them, as if nature itself recognized the rare alignment of two souls from distant stars. Trial of devotion. The diplomatic summit chambers erupted into chaos as emergency containment fields activated. Crimson warning lights bathed the room while delegates scattered in confusion. At the center of the commotion, Terrace moved instinctively toward Queen Lyria as security personnel surrounded her. "Biological contaminant detected," announced the automated system. "Unknown pathogen dispersal in progress." Kelvin seized command, his voice cutting through the panic. "Isolate the Earth delegation immediately. This betrayal will not stand." "We had nothing to do with this," Terrace protested, even as guards moved to restrain him. His eyes sought Lyria's across the chamber. "Your Majesty, think logically. Why would we sabotage our own negotiations?" Lyria raised a hand, halting her security team. "Commander Valen is correct. Earth gains nothing from this disruption." Her gaze swept the room. "Secure the chamber, but treat our guests with respect while we investigate." Hours later, quarantined in his quarters, Terrace reviewed security footage on a datapad Vela had secretly provided. The recording showed a member of the Krell Consortium, rivals to Earth for Nydrian resources, accessing environmental controls shortly before the incident. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Queen Lyria, now dressed in a functional containment suit that did little to diminish her regal presence. "You shouldn't be here," Terrace said, though he couldn't hide his relief at seeing her. "Your advisors are currently occupied with containment procedures," she finished, removing her helmet once the door sealed behind her. The purple hues of her skin seemed more vivid in the room's soft lighting. "I reviewed your evidence. The Krell representatives have been detained." Terrace exhaled slowly. "Thank you for trusting me." "Trust requires verification," she corrected, though her expression softened. "But I've observed enough to know when intuition should guide judgment." She moved closer, the distance between them charged with unspoken tension. "The disruption provided clarity. When chaos erupted, your first movement was toward me, not toward escape or advantage." "Some reactions bypass diplomatic training," Terrace admitted. Something shifted in her expression, a vulnerability rarely displayed by the sovereign of an interstellar power. "My advisors warn that your interest is merely strategic, a calculated approach to securing favorable terms. And what do you believe? That genuine connection transcends species and politics." Her hand reached toward his face, hesitating just short of contact. "May I?" When Terrace nodded, her fingertips brushed his cheek. The touch sent a pleasant warmth cascading through him, not the artificial sensation of biochemical manipulation, but something more elemental. "Our physiologies are different," she murmured, "but some responses are universal." Their first kiss bridged worlds, tentative initially, then deepening with shared discovery. Her skin emanated a subtle glow that intensified with emotion, casting soft purple light across their embracing figures. Later, as they lay entwined in each other's arms, Lyria traced patterns across Terrace's chest. "This complicates everything," she whispered. "Or simplifies it," he countered. "Personal connection can strengthen political alliance, or make us vulnerable to those who would exploit it." Her expression grew serious. "Kelvin leads a faction opposed to Earth relations. This development will fuel their resistance." Terrace pulled her closer. "Then we prove that what exists between us serves both our peoples, not just ourselves." As dawn broke over Nidra's crystalline horizon, they reluctantly separated. aware that private feelings would soon face public scrutiny. Before leaving, Lyria pressed something into Terrace's hand, a small crystal that pulsed in rhythm with her own bioluminescence. "A Nidrian heart token," she explained. "It resonates with my life signature, so you know that regardless of what political face I must present in the days ahead, what happened here was real." Convergence of Stars. The Grand Assembly Hall of Nidra had never hosted such a diverse gathering. Delegates from Earth stood alongside representatives from a dozen star systems, all assembled to witness the unprecedented treaty signing. At separate ends of the chamber, Terrace and Lyria prepared for their roles in the ceremony, each surrounded by advisors offering last-minute counsel. "The opposition faction has gathered significant support," Vela warned, adjusting Lyria's ceremonial attire. The queen's purple skin gleamed beneath layers of translucent formal garments that captured and refracted light in hypnotic patterns. "Kelvin speaks of tradition betrayed and resources surrendered." "Let him speak," Lyria replied with quiet confidence. "Results will answer rhetoric." Across the hall, Terrace received similarly cautious advice from Earth's diplomatic chief. "The Coalition Council remains skeptical of these expanded terms," the older woman noted. "A personal relationship with the Nidrian sovereign was not part of your mission parameters. Yet it created possibilities beyond our original ambitions," Terrace countered, feeling the warm pulse of the heart token concealed beneath his formal attire. When the ceremony began, Terrace and Lyria approached the central platform from opposite sides of the hall, each step deliberately measured. Protocol dictated they maintain formal distance until the final moment of signing, but the energy between them was palpable, even across the space that separated them. Kelvin stepped forward to read the treaty provisions. "Let it be recorded that Nidra extends not merely trading rights but technological partnership to Earth, an unprecedented concession that some—" his gaze flicked pointedly toward the Queen— "consider excessive generosity." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Lyria raised her chin, addressing not just her advisors but all present. "What some call excessive I name visionary. Isolation preserved Nidra through turbulent eras, but the future demands connection." Terrace spoke next, his voice carrying through the hushed chamber. "Earth approaches this alliance not as transaction but transformation. We offer not merely resources, but commitment to shared prosperity." As they moved to sign the document, protesters from both delegations surged forward. "The Queen betrays Nidrian purity," one shouted. "Earth surrenders autonomy," called another. Security moved to intervene, but Lyria raised her hand for calm. In that moment of tension, Terrace reached across the document and openly took her hand, a breach of protocol that gasped through the assembly. "Our differences are not obstacles," he announced, "but opportunities. Look beyond appearances to the shared aspirations of conscious beings throughout this galaxy." Lyria's skin glowed with emotional intensity as she addressed her people. "For generations we tested visitors with pleasures and distractions, believing true character emerges through temptation. Yet we failed to recognize a greater truth, that genuine connection transcends such tests." They signed the treaty together, hands still joined, a gesture that would be broadcast across both their worlds. The crystal insignia on the document pulsed with combined light, sealing not just political agreement but a new paradigm. At the celebration that followed, they danced in the traditional Nidrian style, their movements creating patterns of light that historians would later describe as the visual manifestation of two worlds finding harmony. When they finally stepped away from the public eye, finding a moment of privacy on a moonlit balcony, no words were immediately necessary. "They will never fully understand," Lyria said finally, looking toward the stars that separated their homeworlds. "Perhaps they don't need to," Terrace replied, drawing her close. "We've created the framework. Understanding will follow action." As they embraced beneath Nidra's twin moons, the luminescent gardens below seemed to pulse in synchronization with their shared emotions. Somewhere in the vastness of space, Earth continued its own rotation, connected now to this distant world not merely by treaty, but by the most fundamental force in any galaxy, the gravity that draws separate bodies into shared orbit, creating systems greater than their individual components. Their union, begun in diplomatic necessity and flowering into genuine devotion, would become legend throughout the star systems. not for its political implications, but for proving that even across the void of space and the divisions of species, the capacity for connection remained the most powerful force in the universe.